What's up, guys? Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. I got a nice little 5-game slate for you guys. So it'll be interesting to figure out the best way to approach this with some limited options. We got the perfect guy to help us break it down. Adam, should my money share? Adam, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Hoping tonight goes a little bit better than the early slate did, where Garrett Cole gave up like 3 home runs and 6 runs in the first inning.
Definitely. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have to work and I couldn't play it. Uh, but first, before we talk about some baseball, I mean, have you recovered from your trip to Dallas?
Yeah, it was pretty calm on the partying end. I mean, obviously, went out a bit, but yeah, Dallas closes early, so didn't really get in too much trouble out there, and was pretty easy to recover from it.
Nice, man. That honestly is a little bit surprising, but guys, if you didn't already know, Adam, he shipped that MMA championship over the weekend. So give Adam a big congrats. And I saw Josh post a picture of an IV from the hotel room. Like, did you also get that? Because I've been like dying to know, like, what is that like?
No, Josh was in much, much worse shape than me Saturday morning. I don't really, I mean, yeah, we didn't do anything crazy Friday. We did, drink all day, and Josh was mixing drinks quite a bit. So I think it kind of just got to him, and in addition to him just, being old and not really being able to hang. But yeah, no, I woke up at like 9 a.m. to our hotel phone ringing, and I rolled over, and it was Josh. It was, the guy at the front desk for Josh with the IV thing. So yeah, he was in pretty bad shape, but he was good after that.
At least you knew the best way to deal with that. Is Josh's must be on some sort of bender because like a couple weeks ago when we were in Chicago, Laffy posted the video that all of you guys probably didn't want to see, but like puking into a trash can. So like I mean was that the kind of like energy that was at the final?
He avoided puking anywhere, so that was good.
Okay.
Yeah, and somebody in chat said he's not that old. Is he in actual age? No, but he's also been married for a while, so I mean, he's just not accustomed to doing fun things anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like to be honest, most of the time I just stay in my apartment and play DFS. So I have to admit, like I'm a little bit rusty on the partying as well. So I think we can all appreciate Josh's predicament when you get out to these events and
Yeah, the,
everyone
the
is
craziest thing
going
for me
hard.
was like I get hungover pretty easily typically, and I was like perfectly fine Saturday, and he like can't get out of bed. So that was the crazy part to me.
That's wild, man. All right, guys, before we get into the game by game breakdown here, if you could hit that like button, that gives us that positive feedback we need to give you the best picks. And let's get a like for Josh. Hopefully he's recovered by now. And okay, we got a few free tools on the site that you can check out the PGA ownership projections for the Wyndham. Got live before lack later tonight if you guys are making some PGA lines, so make sure to check that out. Plus, we got the MLB Night Slate tool, which is called the Night Owl, which is our free kind of way to work yourself into the MLB tools. So it's like completely free for the night slate. You can go over to the site and check that out. And tonight's night slate actually is pretty decent. So I think that'll be a lot. That'll be pretty useful. Also on the page, we got a special promo that you can't get anywhere else. So make sure to check out that Night Owl page. All right, let's get into the games here in Milwaukee. 200 favorite versus Pittsburgh. So tonight we got, let's see, Freddie Peralta versus Tyler Beatty. Peralta, he hasn't pitched in a couple months. So do you have any read on if he's playable in DFS?
I'm expecting him to at least be somewhat limited since he hasn't pitched in a while. I'm pulling up his Fangraphs page now just to double check that. Obviously, it is a good spot, so the potential pitch count is the real concern. In his most recent, minor league start, went 3 1/3, faced 13 batters. So it's pretty difficult for me to think that he's going to go that deep into the game.
Agreed. Yeah, that minor league start helps reaffirm that we shouldn't be playing this guy. Although, I mean, DeGrom, he was on the 65 to 75 pitch limit. He went out and did pretty well. although some other pitchers killed it last night, so it didn't end up making a huge difference. It's not impossible, but I'd say that Peralta is probably unrosterable. What do you think?
52 pitches in his last rehab start. So, I mean, I would think you're probably looking at 65 to 70.
Yeah, he's a good pitcher, but that's probably not enough to get it done. On the other side, Tyler Beatty, he's another guy that he hasn't pitched in the season so far in the majors. Have you been keeping an eye on what's been going on with Tyler Beatty?
He's pretty much just opening. He's got 23 games in the majors this year, but no starts. 40 and a third total innings pitched. He's opening. I believe Chase DeYoung is expected to come in after him. So basically a bullpen game for the Pirates.
Okay. So that this game, it kind of stinks for the pitchers. So the over under is still only 8.5. So I'm not allowed to say our name for the games where you can't play the pitcher and you can't play the batters anymore. But like, what are you seeing on the bat side?
Milwaukee is kind of interesting. We have them with the highest top stack percentage at 21% right now, and also getting 20% ownership. I think it's a pretty good spot as far as, Tyler Beatty's not particularly good. Chase DeYoung's not particularly good, but bullpen games also aren't really that appealing just because you're going to get, different arms in almost every at bat, if not every at bat. And on top of that, it's not a great park for hitting either. So I think, with it being a 5-game slate, potentially 4, depending on weather in St. Louis, obviously you can get to some Milwaukee. They grade out as a good stack, but I am a little concerned about the park and the fact that it's essentially a bullpen game.
There is one stat that may change your mind about the park here. In Pittsburgh tonight, it is 89 degrees. So that seems like a positive shift compared to average conditions, which this time of year probably are in the mid 70s or low 80s. So does the fact that it's 90 degrees tonight make a difference for you?
Not directly, because I think that's just baked into lines and everything else. But one thing that I think is worth noting is not only is it a 5-game slate, but when you look at like where the other games are being played, you have one being played in Anaheim, you have one being played in San Francisco, one in San Diego, and then may or may not be getting the one in St. Louis. So it's not like you're talking about Pirate Stadium on a slate where you have a bunch of favorable hitters parks. You're talking about Pirate Stadium on a slate where pretty much every park is not very good for hitting, and it is warm there as well. So that makes it, certainly look a little bit better.
Definitely. Now, when it comes to the Pirates lineup, they have a low team total of 3.6. So it looks like some of the guys in their lineup haven't even really been okay. I was looking at the wrong column here. Okay, so like overall, the Pirates lineup not great at power, not great at speed. So pretty much none of the stuff we're looking for in a DFS lineup. Do you think you're gonna take some chances on the Pirates tonight?
Probably not too much. It's a good pitcher in Peralta, and then it's a solid Milwaukee bullpen behind him. Going back to the start of the 2020 season, 117 expected ISO to righties, 117 to lefties. It's not like he's really given up power to anybody. Strikeout percentage is north of 30% to both sides of the plate. You can make a case. Pittsburgh grades out as like a pretty good value stack just because they're really inexpensive, but they're also really bad, so they should be inexpensive. So I don't anticipate getting to too much. Right now, looking at the top stacks tool, we have them with a 5% chance of being the top stack. We have them with 5% ownership. So it's not like they're even really projected to go on their own.
Yeah, definitely. So 0 leverage in the top stacks tool, like pretty unusual for a stack that is one of the lowest of the night, because usually these have low ownership. We saw in a chat, we got Slate Breaker saying Pittsburgh is eventually going to break the slate tonight. Could be, or eventually going to break the slate tonight. Could be the night. Like, I like this guy's shtick, but okay. So 5% chance of being the top stack. I think like what we're looking for is that big payout when we hit it, and the fact that the ownership is actually quite high on these guys at 7% in the top stacks. That's kind of a reason not to go to them. It does look like the value on Pittsburgh isn't bad. Like all the guys are, or most of the guys are around 2x or better. So I can see why maybe some people would land on them, but not a great option tonight. On the other side, the Brewers, a 5.4 team total is pretty healthy. They're actually the top stack of the night in a top stack tool at 21%. So about 2 times the chance of an average team at being the top stack tonight. And I'm looking at their lineup. It looks like pretty much everyone has decent power except the catcher, Omar Narvaez. Even him, he's not horrible for a catcher, but I'm kind of liking this lineup because it looks like you can roster pretty much anyone from 1 to 9. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's still, the different matchups against the bullpen is the biggest concern that I have, but it does look like a good spot. And like you said, getting to the bottom of the order, assuming it's going to be Omar Narvaez tonight, he's 3K, so that's a cheap catcher option. Tyrone Taylor, 3,100, has some upside. We know that everybody 1 through 7 certainly has upside. So it is nice in that you can kind of just get to the entire team, as opposed to it being a situation where you kind of are stuck playing the same like 4 or 5 guys.
Definitely. So maybe a little bit more favorable for stacking up today compared to other days. The ownership does seem to be there on pretty much everyone on this team. I'll point out though, because everyone's over 10% in our projections at ownership. So it's going to be tough to differentiate with the Brewers, but certainly a great option. In general, my advice is if you take a popular team as your first stack, your 5 stack on DK or a 4 stack on FanDuel, you want to go a little bit more contrarian with your secondary stack. What's your general take on that?
Yeah, I agree. Typically, I mean, like I know you and I have talked about that a bit with regard to pitching too, like that I'm more willing to go with popular pitching than popular hitting typically. But it's the same kind of thing. Like I'm typically going to be mixing and matching contrarian and more popular because in most cases, not all, but in a lot of cases, the most popular teams or most popular pitchers are popular because they are the most likely to succeed and the best plays. So you can really cause yourself some problems if your strategy is just to like play contrarian guys all across the board because you're typically going to be getting away from the best plays all across the board as well. So mixing in a contrarian stack with a more popular stack and or more popular pitching, I think is a good way to go.
Nice, man. And just one follow-up question, because I know we got a small slate tonight, so we got plenty of time to talk about all of the minutia here. But when it comes to stack like strategies, do you change your strategy based on the slate size? Like, are you going to have different configurations of stacks on a 5-game slate versus a 14-game slate?
Not usually. I mean, my strategy changes a little bit just naturally. It's not by design, but obviously ownership gets more aggressive on smaller slates. And so I'm still playing the same strategy as far as, trying to compare ownership to how likely I think things are to succeed. But, I'll end up getting some lower probability teams maybe on smaller slates just because of a lack of options and stuff like that. But typically I stick with the same stacks. If you get to like a 3-game slate, I'll start mixing in some more like, 3-3-2 type stuff. But typically on 5-gamers, I'm just sticking with the same stuff I normally do.
Agreed. Yeah, unless I have a really good reason to not 5-stack a team on DraftKings or just go 4-4 on FanDuel or 4-3. Like the slate size on the extremes, where it's like a 2-game slate, I could see maybe switching it up, but on a 5-game slate, there's still a lot of combos. All right, we just got some breaking PGA news. Danny Lee withdrew.
Not
If you
2 weeks
played,
in a row.
yeah, I know it's like water is what, man. Like this is crazy. All right. Chicago at St. Louis is the next game. So all right. We got Rafael or Justin Steele versus Miles Michaelis. Michaelis somehow like has been having a really solid season, perhaps getting lucky. And then Justin Steele, a promising young pitcher. He's been having above average season, which I don't know if he was really projected to do quite as well as he's been doing. So what have you been seeing with these guys?
Yeah, Steele's been more solid than I expected. The strikeout stuff is pretty average, 21.6% strikeout percentage. But he has a 3.88 xFIP, and it really stands out that he's done a good job limiting power. 105 expected ISO to righties and a sub 100 expected ISO to lefties. It's still a difficult matchup against the Cardinals. It's not a spot that I'm really looking to get to. It is noteworthy just that, he's done a good job limiting power, and that could certainly hurt the Cardinals. But I don't anticipate getting to much of him here. And this is the one game on the slate that has massive weather concerns as well. So there is risk in any of this, and it's something to keep an eye on.
All right, we got a question in the chat here. Do you like stacking hitters in order, or do you just roll with whatever is best based on production, position, etc.?
I don't worry about the order. There's a mild uptick in correlation the closer you are in the batting lineup, but it's not enough for me to want to really worry about it. And then also you have to, keep in mind that like guys in better batting spots typically are going to get more ownership as well. So if you're just going to say like, oh, well, I'm only stacking, 2 through 6 or something like that because, they all hit consecutively, you're just leaving off the low owned parts that you can get to be contrarian within a stack. So it's pretty much just, there's a lot of other factors that outweigh how much I care about how close in the lineup guys are to each other.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that when it comes to correlation, like obviously like the RBIs and runs are more correlated, but there's other correlations that happen. Like for instance, if someone doesn't get it out, that means there's one extra at bat of the game. That trickles down to everyone. And then you also have the fact that if you have 5 players from the team, it's hard to have very many gaps in your lineup to begin with. So like maybe for like the smaller stacks, like a 3-person or 2-person stack, having that closer correlation, it could be more of a priority. All right, let's go back to the pitching matchup here. So Steele is coming in at 1% ownership. Michael is at 18%. Steele being at 1% seems a little bit surprising to me. What do you think?
Yeah, it's low, but I think it's a pretty low probability play as well. Really tough matchup against the Cardinals. You have the weather concerns on top of that, and then Steele just a pretty mediocre strikeout guy. It is a 5-game slate, so like I get it if you're stacking, like Milwaukee and San Diego or something, like 2 of the really popular teams. Steele's the kind of guy that maybe just like sneaks into a lineup here and there, but he's got the 3rd lowest top 2 pitcher percentage in our top pitchers tools, so it makes it hard to think that I'm going to get a lot of him.
Yeah, when it comes to the weather, it does look pretty ominous in St. Louis tonight. So I'm pulling up the radar. It looks like the forecast is for severe storms from 8 to 10 p.m. So this is looking like a game that, as of now, like I think would be a weather fade. Fortunately, we got plenty of time to come up with our strategy here, but what do you think the chances they just call this one off before lock?
I'm kind of hoping they do, because with it being a 5-game slate, I don't want to just write it off if they don't postpone it. I'm willing to take my chances on storms just not landing over the stadium, hopefully, with it being such a short slate, but I'm kind of hoping that they just postpone it so I don't have to worry about it.
I kind of like the idea of them. Honestly, I hope it gets postponed after like a delay or something, because like you always get a ton of dead lineups in that case.
Yeah, well, I will have those dead lineups. So
there's no reason like you have to have those lineups. Why not just not play those guys? I don't know.
Yeah, I typically don't really worry about weather as long as the game isn't postponed.
This one does look particularly bad, so honestly, I'd be shocked if it even makes it all the way to lock. The start time for this game is 6:45 p.m. or 7:45 Eastern. So I think that there is a possibility that after lock at 7:05 the game gets postponed. I just don't see how you could play this one personally based on the radar, but I'm curious in chat what you guys think. So let us know what you're doing with this one. All right, let's go to the bats just in case the game does play. But Chicago has a 4-team total. St. Louis has a 4.8 team total. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, 2 decent pitchers. Michaelis, 3.86 xFIP this year, less than 1 home run per 9 innings. If somehow the weather cleared up, which it's not going to, but if somehow it did, Michaelis is actually interesting to me as a pitcher, because he doesn't have great strikeout stuff, but there are some strikeouts in the Cubs lineup, and they do have some power, but Michaelis typically is able to mitigate that. But again, I think with the weather, there's a very good chance that I end up not getting the pitching. It's more of do I mess around with bats or not? But as far as the offenses go, I think St. Louis against Steele, it's not a great spot. I mentioned that he's not giving up a lot of power, but it's still a good lineup. And with the exception of Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, who we know are fantastic and deserving of very expensive price tags, they're not very expensive. Goldschmidt 6,300, Arenado 5,800. Every hitter below them in the order, down to Tommy Edman at 9, is 3,200 or less. Carlson expected to lead off at 4K. O'Neill's 4,400 with the platoon advantage. So I do like the Cardinals as a stack against Steele if the weather cooperates here. On the other side with Chicago, not quite as high on them since Michaelis is a pretty good pitcher, and also their lineup isn't as good as the Cardinal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like if the game plays, the Cardinals look pretty interesting. I mean, you got great batters with Goldschmidt and Arenado. I'm pretty impressed that Arenado, like after leaving Coors, like he has like virtually the same stats. Like that seems statistically improbable. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean he was a really good hitter regardless. So not too surprised that he's maintained it.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next game. But before we do, I want to talk a little bit about some of the resources that we have available on Stokastic. Our job is to help you guys win the money. So every night we got 50K, 100K up for grabs, but you gotta make a killer lineup to be able to get that money. And part of it is the shows where we're kind of going through the plays one by one, figuring out the best options, like from a raw points and strategic standpoint. And the other part is the data, where on Stokastic, we got all these tools like projections, ownership, the top stacks tool. Like it's really leveraging your own sports expertise plus these tools that's going to get you to win the big bucks in MLB DFS. If you haven't already signed up for the membership, we got the promo code MLBDD for MLB Deeper Dive. It's 50% off your first week of any weekly package. And you'll be throwing me and Adam a bone because if we don't get enough signups, we might be seeing some other hosts on the show next week. So guys, MLBDD, 50% off your first week on Stokastic. All right. Next game, we got Oakland at LA. James Kaprielian versus Ohtani. Ohtani, it seems like every single week, every single start, he's massively owned, and it's hard to really find any fault with that. What are you seeing tonight versus the Athletics?
I think it's more of the same, especially with this being such a short slate and potentially getting shorter. Ohtani's price tag is 10K on DraftKings, so we actually got him out of the 8K range, which is nice, but he's still facing the A's, which is one of the weakest offenses in baseball. You have an 89 WRC plus on this team and virtually no power. There are plenty of strikeouts as well. And then Ohtani leads the slate by a lot with a 36.4% strikeout percentage. He has a 2.3 xFIP to go with it. If you look at the rest of the pitching, the next closest guy on this slate is Freddie Peralta at 30.3%. He has his own concerns. Then you have Snell at 29.3. So really you're talking about like a 7-point bump in strikeout percentage for Ohtani between him and the next closest guy that we're really looking to roster. His walk percentage is less than half of Blake Snell's. His xFIP is a run and a half better. I just don't really see an easy way around all of this ownership that Ohtani's getting.
I agree. Yeah, it seems like a really tough fade, especially versus Oakland. Like they just don't have very good batters. Like the top of the order, like these guys, I guess it's projected lineup, but Bride and Kemp, it's like they don't hit for power, they don't steal a crazy amount of bases. It's like what are we doing here? We gotta roster them. So like the one thing I'll say is our projected lineup for the Athletics is actually like not a great one for racking up strikeouts. It's about average. So it could be a night where if Ohtani he gets a little bit under his strikeout projection, like I guess maybe he doesn't end up the optimal, but it's like I kind of wonder if the ownership is going to be higher than we have on him just because it's really hard to find a reason not to play Ohtani tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we have him at 67% right now. It's always hard for me to think anybody's going to be more popular than that, especially in large field stuff. If you're talking, high stakes, smaller field, you're definitely going to see that number go up. Even if it's not high stakes, single entry stuff, you'll probably see that go up. But in large field, it's just really tough for any pitcher to get above like 70%. You're still going to have enough of the field that either refuses to play a 70% owned pitcher or thinks he's a bad play for God knows what reason or whatever else. So I think that's a pretty reasonable ownership projection on him. And to your point about, Oakland's projected lineup, like we still have Ohtani projected 5 full DraftKings points higher than the second highest pitcher on this slate. So even factoring in that projected lineup and, maybe it being a below average strikeout spot, it's still just not even close between him and the next, closest guy in terms of projection.
Agreed. Yeah, it's like I hate the slates like this, to be honest, like from a strategic standpoint, because it's like, everyone's gonna play them and you just have to play them too. Where it's like if you like try to find an edge by fading like the best and most popular pitcher, that's an easy way, like where it's like, that meme where it's like, congratulations, you played yourself. I definitely feel like that's what will happen if you fade Ohtani tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you, like, as far as not liking slates like this, because it just gets so, like, Ohtani is very, very, very clearly the top option, but it's also just like 70% is so much.
Yeah. All right. On the other side, James Kaprielian, he has a 19% strikeout rate so far this year. He's a pretty highly touted guy, like originally, but he hasn't really found a ton of success in the major leagues so far. Do you have any reads on him?
On Kaprielian?
Yeah.
No, I mean, he was surprising last year, I thought, when he was doing pretty well. This year, he's just been absolutely awful. This game, or this matchup in particular, is just really interesting because the Angels are an awful, awful team offensively. You can't roster Shohei Ohtani in your stacks, but they're also going up against Kaprielian, who has a 15.7% strikeout percentage, a 10% walk percentage, and a 5.26 xFIP this year, while allowing 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. It's just like probably the worst pitcher or second worst pitcher on the slate versus the arguably worst offense on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, the Angels offense sans Mike Trout, it's not great. Like, it's not horrible, I'd say. It looks like the average on base is about league average. The ISO is a little bit higher than average.
Yeah, but Shohei Ohtani is pulling all of that up.
Oh yeah. I mean, but he's going to be in the lineup, so
Well,
I guess
right,
so, yeah,
like,
you can't play him, I guess, is the main point.
Well, yeah, but also just like he's still only facing Ohtani call it 3 times. Like Ohtani and Ward can hit. Everybody else in this lineup is just awful. So like when you're looking at the average, like unless you're doing median, like it's gonna be skewed higher than it really is.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So, all right, the ownership of this one's a really tough one to stack because Ohtani is how you want. You can't play him at batter. Hopefully they figure that out on the sites sooner rather than later. But we got a super chat from Retro Automotive Group. He says, "How's the WFBC event? Is it worth it?" I think those are a lot of fun. Like, I think you made a really good point that like these tournaments, like with the live finals, they're probably not a great way if you want to like build up a bankroll to do so. But if you just want the best chance at winning a big chunk of money playing fantasy baseball, like live final is probably your best way to go about doing that.
Yeah, and also if you just want, like, I think the most entertaining thing in the DFS industry is live events. Not only do you have a chance at like massive amounts of money at them, but like it's just fun to go to wherever and hang out for a few days. So yeah, it's if you're just trying to grind a bankroll and you decide to start playing qualifiers, there's a good chance that bankroll is going to be gone really quickly because that's just how it is. But if you are approaching DFS more from an entertainment standpoint, or like your goal is like you're not worried about whatever money you lose, your goal is just to try and get a really big hit from DFS. Yeah, like they're certainly worth it, I think, in terms of being fun and the sweat of playing for a huge prize and all of that. Just know your personal finances and don't go broke chasing them.
Definitely. It was funny in the super chat. He's like, "I lost to you in it the other night." I'm like, I don't remember winning a ticket, and I'm like going through my history. It's like turns out like I didn't actually win a ticket, so I'm very confused now. um, so I think like whenever I enter a live final queue, it's like I'm writing off that money. So if I'm like not prepared to part with that money, like I'm not gonna enter. So
Right.
it really depends on your goals. Where I agree with everything you already said. Where
Yeah,
it's kind
and also even if like one trap I'll fall into, even if you decide that like you're in a position where you want to chase some live finals, do keep an eye on how much you're actually losing because it's really easy to like not notice it. Like I know I had like a rough June and I looked to see how much I had lost and like where I had lost it. And I was like, oh, well, I'm doing pretty decent in tournaments, but I'm down like 45K in MLB qualifiers this year, and it's like it just adds up without me even like noticing I'd lost that much on them. So that's another thing is like even if you're just like, oh yeah, I'm cool losing a decent chunk of money here, like keep an eye on how much you're actually losing.
totally, yeah. I mean, the way I see it, it's like I know most of you guys aren't high rolling, but like okay, DraftKings has that like 750 qualifier, but you can max enter twice. So like a $1,500, and like say you're a really good uh MLB DFS player and you have like a 10% ROI, which like to be honest, like uh if you're like throwing down a ton of volume, that's probably higher than you're gonna have, like even if you're really awesome. So like 15K of entries, you're making 1.5K, and that's like those two qualifier entries. So it's like whatever profit you're gonna come away with, you're definitely putting that towards the qualifiers. Like if you're lucky, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all just it's all really goal based, and just, making sure that you don't accidentally lose a lot more than you intend to.
Definitely. All right. Um on back to the Oakland at LA game. So okay, Oakland versus Ohtani. I know like this is going to be a stack people are going to consider because it's like even though they are unlikely to succeed, when they do, 67% of the field is going to go down with Ohtani. Like, does it make sense to have some exposure to the A's bats?
It's such a tough sell for me. Um, they are projected to go on their own, so there's that. I mean, we have them with the lowest top stack percentage. I think that goes without saying, but at least they are only projected for 1% ownership. There are some times where you'll get 5 to 6% ownership on a team like this just because enough people are saying, oh, well, I'm going to stack against Ohtani, and maybe that'll happen here too, and it just ends up coming in a little bit higher. But they are at least projected to be under-owned, which is a step in the right direction. I think it's still going to be extremely difficult to get there, mostly because I'm probably just going to end up with Ohtani in every lineup.
Definitely. Uh, if you do the math, it's like if 2/3 of the lineups are having Ohtani, then like how many lineups are even considering the A stack? So
Right.
I'm kind of feeling it like they have a 4.4 chance of being the top stack. Not great, but not zero. And it's like that, like whenever Ohtani has a bad night, say he goes uh like one standard deviation like under his projection. So like in that kind of situation, it's gonna be like the cash line is gonna be way, way lower. So your chance of cashing with the Oakland stack is a little bit better than the projection is gonna show you. So those correlations do come into play like pretty significantly in DFS. Like I just like I'm kind of aligned with what you're saying, where it's like I'm just like not sure I can click that button, you know?
Yeah, like it's just so yeah, it's so tough. Like it's just such a big gap in terms of like what your lineups are going to look like with Ohtani versus what your lineups are going to look like with Oakland stacks. Um, I doubt that's where I get to.
Nice. All right, guys, I put in an update for the ownership to account for this weather game. So just a reminder on the tools, we have our postponement chance on the site on the projections page. So what that really represents is like if there's no news before the game starts, what is the chance that it late starts and then gets postponed? So that's really the situation I'm trying to gauge, because if it gets postponed before the game starts, like obviously you can swap off those players. It's like the leverage you get on the field isn't going to be that much because you're like no one's going to have those dead lineups. It's really when the game gets postponed after the lock time that there's dead lineups. Although now I'm talking myself through this, I feel like FanDuel last time this happened, like and a game got postponed after a lock, they just unlocked all those players and let you swap. Have you been paying attention to that?
No, not really.
Okay. Maybe you guys in the chat can confirm or deny this because like that does change the strategy a little bit where if you're able to swap, like I don't love having to swap like whole lineups like post lock with players locked in, but that's significant. All right, guys. Well, anything else from this game?
Oh, so Caprillion, I know Sean V was vouching for him in chat, and I'm not that enthusiastic about him, but it is a matchup with the Angels. Like this team does have a ton of strikeouts in their lineup. It is a 4-game slate. You basically have a ton of ownership coming to Ohtani, Snell, Urias, a bit less to Cobb. We might be losing the Cubs game. You have pitch count question marks on Peralta, and then you're left with Caprillion, Cool, and a bullpen game from Pittsburgh. So out of the cheap guys, like out of the value pitchers, I do think Caprilion's where I would go. He is projected for 10% ownership. I think that makes some sense. So, again, I'm not locking Caprillion like Sean suggested, but it is a spot where one of these sides probably wins out, the really bad pitcher or the really bad offense.
Definitely. All right, guys. Thanks in chat. It sounds like everyone's confirming that last time a game late started and got postponed, you could swap off it on FanDuel. So I feel like that they kind of like apply this rule unevenly. So I wouldn't count on it, but that does make a fade a little bit less exciting. All right, Odd Shopper, that's our sports betting tool. And if you're not shopping the odds in sports betting, you're probably not going to be winning a ton, like to be honest, because it's like you got to exploit these thin edges. And like the difference in odds between one book to another, it might be like $15 on your winning bets. So that's huge. And having memberships to like several different books to be able to snipe the best odds on the bets that you like, you're just going to make more money when you win your bets. So that's a no-brainer. Go to Odd Shopper. Not only do we allow you to easily find the lines that are best, but we also have our projection models integrated into the platform. So you can select stochastic projections, get our best bets from our data models that have won us all the big bucks in DFS. And then we also have the Sharp Sportsbook lines that it's a wider range of bets that you can browse through, but sometimes some sports books will have a line that's just way off the industry average. That's where you can pounce and make some money. So go to Odd Shopper, take advantage of those tools. All right, fourth game, we got Dodgers at San Francisco. Urias versus Cobb. Urias been having a pretty good season, but it seems like he doesn't go quite as deep as other guys of his caliber, but we have a limited selection tonight. How does he rank for you?
He looks like the third guy to me. I agree with what we're projecting the field to do, where Ohtani's getting the most ownership, and then Snell, Urias at 9,100. I think looks fine. He's pitching in San Francisco. It's a favorable park to pitch in. Does a good job limiting power. The Giants are going to have a bunch of right-handed hitters in their lineup, but there are some strikeouts in there, and they are an above-average offense, but nothing that I'm too scared about. And Urias has limited righties to a 114 expected ISO this year. He does have a lower strikeout percentage, as you'd expect, 21.7% against righties compared to 31.5% against lefties. So that's not ideal, but you got to, you can only take what you're given on a slate like this. So I think he should be lower owned than Snell. He is lower owned than Snell. I don't have any issues getting to him, but he is the third guy for me there. On FanDuel, it becomes a little bit more interesting. And I mentioned him specifically in my tournament plays video, because on FanDuel, you don't have the same salary gap between him and Blake Snell. Snell's only $200 less expensive, but we have Snell projected for nearly twice the ownership, despite having a top pitcher percentage only like 1.5 points higher. So I think on FanDuel, moving some Blake Snell to Julio Urias is like actively a really good idea. Whereas on DraftKings, it's a nice idea, but you're also talking about a pretty big gap in salary. So it's not really apples to apples.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think we're a solid play, but you're right that we got some great other pitching options. But on FanDuel, let's see. In our latest ownership, Blake Snell's at 27% and 33 points, where we have Urias at 32 points and 16%. So there's really no reason a 1% or 1 point of projection should change the ownership by 10%. So that seems like an advantage. All right, I got a question from Baldy in the open chat here. You playing the Hall of Fame game tomorrow? So I'm pretty excited because Matt Kajeski, he's back with his preseason NFL projections. So that just makes it so much easier to play preseason DFS, where you can just kind of plug it in. Like with preseason, like how much have you played preseason? Because like I've tried to play a few times without any tools, and it's like if you're not following the beat reports like to the last minute, it's like you get a guy that's not even playing. So
yeah, I typically don't play. I absolutely hate preseason sports. I'm more likely to play now that Matt's doing projections, and I trust Matt to do all of the legwork that I don't want to do. But yeah, no, it's typically it's something where I think there's an edge if you want to dig into that stuff. I personally absolutely hate digging into that stuff, so I typically just skip it.
Yeah, there's a huge edge, man, because like you're only making as much money as other people make mistakes.
Right.
And it's very easy to make mistakes in preseason. It's funny, man. Like Nolan posted in our chat, it's like NFL's back tomorrow. I'm like, is this NFL? Like, I don't know, but I know you can make money playing it. So that's the most exciting part for me. But yeah, preseason, make sure to check out Matt Kajeski's like articles and videos about that too, because those are great to pair with the projections. All right, so back to the game. Urias, a very solid option. Cobb, he's been having an unlucky year, a 2.8 xFIP, a 4 ERA. Very solid strikeout numbers at 25%. Matchup versus Dodgers, you never like that, but it's only 60 degrees in San Francisco tonight. So probably you're going to get Cobb on a night where it's not projected quite as well as average, but how are you liking him tonight?
He's, I think, without a doubt, the most talented of the relatively low-owned pitchers, especially if you're kind of discounting Michaelis for weather. But 24% strikeout percentage for Cobb this year, 24.5%, 2.81 xFIP, like you said. His ERA is like a run and a half higher than that. He's only left 60.9% of base runners on base. He's only stranded 60.9% of base runners. That's extremely low and unlucky. 328 BABIP is pretty high. He's a good pitcher. And so getting him at 7,200 here and modest ownership on a 4-game slate is pretty appealing. The matchup against the Dodgers is a problem, but it's also why he's not getting more ownership. Like if Cobb had a neutral matchup here, you wouldn't be getting a 57% Snell versus a 13% Cobb. It would probably be something closer, 40-20 or something like that. So I think that Cobb is the most obvious way to kind of just lower some ownership in your lineup if you need to. Like if you're playing one of the better offenses that is getting some ownership and you decide you don't want to pair Ohtani and Snell together because you're just playing a ridiculously chalky lineup at that point, Alex Cobb off of Snell is like the most obvious pivot that I would look to first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from a points per dollar standpoint, Cobb stands out as a good play. The Dodgers lineup super scary, but you got a couple of guys in the lineup that are definitely below par players, such as Trace Thompson. I guess he's been doing really well this year, but I'm not really convinced. And James Outman, who he's a rookie that I don't know much about. And this guy Miguel Vargas. Do you have any like reads on the Dodgers lineup because we're seeing some names that we don't usually see.
Yeah, so Outman, like he's played 2 games in the majors so far, but Steamer projects him for a 99 WRC plus, 181 ISO. So kind of just a decent bat. Vargas is making his major league debut, 94 games at AAA this year, 119 WRC plus. Steamer projects him for a 112 WRC plus. So, I mean, it looks like Vargas is expected to be a better hitter than Outman. And he's also 2K flat on DraftKings, which is worth noting. But like to your point, it's at least not the same level of name value in this lineup. You don't have Will Smith, so that's good for Cobb. Like him to Barnes is a downgrade. You don't have Bellinger. There are still guys they're calling up from the minors that are solid hitters, but I think it's a little bit easier to take your chances with Cobb against some guys making, their first or third major league appearance versus what the Dodgers lineup normally looks like.
Definitely. That's crazy, man. It's like the replacement players for the Dodgers are like 100 WRC plus, where like that is a crazy spot to be in. So maybe you take some shots on these guys. Like the Dodgers stack definitely looks like good value with the bottom 3 guys being all in the 2Ks. So I'm pretty intrigued. And then it looks like Outman and Vargas both, we're projecting to have decent power, like reasonable stolen base upsides. So maybe that's the way to get a little bit different on this slate, because most guys might not be scrolling down far enough to see those names. And even then, they might not know who they are. What's your opinion of the Dodgers stack as a whole?
Kind of the opposite of, the same as Cobb, just, in reverse. The Dodgers right now, we have them with like a 12% chance of being the top stack at about 9.5% ownership. It's a really tough spot against Cobb. It's not a great park to hit in, but we really haven't been in love with any offense that we've talked about yet, because it's kind of like the good pitchers are facing the better offenses and the worst offenses are facing the worst pitchers. So I don't mind taking some shots at the Dodgers here. You do get some savings. Like they're easier to get to from a value standpoint. You have Max Muncy hitting 4th at 4K, Thompson 5th at 3,400. Vargas, I already mentioned minimum salary. So is Outman. So it's not quite as talented a lineup as it normally is, but it's also not quite as expensive. So to me, this game is kind of just the opposite of the Caprillion Angels matchup, like the Dodgers versus Cobb, where you have a really good pitcher, you have a really good offense. Both are projected to go a bit under-owned. One of them is going to win out and do well a pretty good percentage of the time.
Thanks, Gray, for the super chat. He says, does lineup strategy change from single entry to 20 max? In general, like the only difference for me is I put my best lineup in the single entry and I put my best 20 lineups in the 20 max.
Right.
What is your approach?
Yeah, pretty much the same approach. If you like, I think if you like in higher stakes single entry, I think ownership changes a bit, but like if you're talking, the 20 max on DraftKings is like $4 or $5 or whatever. If you're talking like a $5 single entry versus a $4 20 max, I think I would just be playing whatever I think my best lineup is. Like it would be in both tournaments.
Yeah, so I'm not really worried that much about the difference in format there, because the overall like numbers that you'll see in ownership and stuff are about equivalent regardless of whether it's single entry or 20 max. The one misconception people have, I think, is like at one point in DFS, single entry tournaments used to be softer than multi-entry tournaments. But like actually in NBA season, I did a research video and I found that wasn't the case, that big $15 to $20 tournament on DraftKings is a little bit softer than the $5 single entry. And so I don't know if you've seen like a trend that single entry has been getting a little sharper.
I wonder if that's the case in baseball, because basketball cash lineups are also very good tournament lineups, whereas in baseball they're not. And I think, and then also the chalk in basketball is just stronger. So I wonder if that's the same, because like I do think in single entry in baseball you still get very concentrated ownership in the most popular spots. So I kind of wonder if that does hold.
Yeah, so something that you guys can look into. So like just usually a good metric of how sharp the field is like the best plays are higher owned. I wouldn't say it's absolutely the case, but so I'd look at Ohtani's ownership and higher it is, the more sharp action, I'd say. All right. San Francisco stack, any interest?
Not particularly. Urias is good. You have the pinch hit risk with the Giants. It's a short slate, so yeah, maybe you get to a little bit. They are projected to be a little bit underowned, but it's a pretty tough sell when, for one, Julio Urias is good, and for two, how many at bats are Slater and Mercedes going to get?
Definitely. All right, guys. We got a promo going on right now that's pretty killer. I mean, best ball season is here, and I like best ball because like the odds of winning $2 million in one of these drafts on Underdog. They just launched their Puppy 3. And Puppy 3's the Puppy tournaments are kind of cool because like you're drafting against people that draft all in kind of like a similar time frame. So those are good ones to draft early, but they go quick. You can get our best ball package for $1 using the promo code Puppy3. So that will give you all the rankings. You just pop them in on Underdog's CSV upload, and then you have them right on the draft screen. So it's super easy to use them. And we're spending a lot of time figuring out what the best ranked players should be. So make sure you use the promo code Puppy3. All right. Last game, Colorado at San Diego. Colorado, a huge underdog here. And yeah, it looks like I can't remember, did they make some moves yesterday?
They did absolutely nothing yesterday.
Oh, they didn't do anything? Man, that's crazy. All right, so I guess they just stunk before and after the trade deadline. But Blake Snell, super, super cheap at 7,900 on DraftKings, more reasonably priced on FanDuel at 91. But I feel like just anyone versus the Rockies away from Coors has been a decent spot, and tonight it looks like no exception. What are you seeing here?
Yep, completely agree. We already talked about him versus Urias. That ownership gap's probably a little bigger than it should be on FanDuel, where they're similarly priced. But on DraftKings, you're getting $7,900 for the guy with the third highest strikeout percentage on the slate. Second, if you discount Freddie Peralta for being on the pitch count, 3.86 xFIP for Snell is good. The only issue with him is he sometimes will just have trouble with command/control and get behind in counts. He walks too many guys. He has a 12.8% walk percentage. But 7,900, I'm not going to like nitpick concerns for him. It's clearly one of the highest upside pitchers on the slate. And yeah, like if I guess out of the Rockies, the Giants, and the A's, if I have to take a shot at one of those teams, I think I would go to the Rockies first, just because Snell does have that increased volatility in his game where he can just very quickly have the bases loaded on like 14 pitches that are nowhere near the strike zone. And then you just get a big inning like that. Whereas, Ohtani and Urias, certainly they can still pitch poorly, but they're less likely to just completely implode and bring it on themselves. Whereas Snell can literally just throw 12 straight pitches nowhere near the strike zone. If I had to pick between those three, I would go Rockies first, but that's not any sort of like endorsement for the Rockies or anti-Snell take. It's still, I think, Snell's the second best pitcher on this slate.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. He's another guy that's hard to fade, but when you have two guys that are hard to fade with Ohtani and Snell, like if you're rostering both, then it gets like you gotta take some really long shots at stack. So adjust accordingly in your lineups. On the other side, Chad Cool, like not looking like a tremendous option tonight. San Diego has a 5.3 team total, and he's not a great strikeout guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough sell. Like, if you want to say Chad Cool's 1%, James Caprillian's 10%, they're both absolute garbage, and I'm going to play Chad Cool instead, that there's nothing wrong with that logic. But for me, the gap in matchup is enough to where I'm willing to just play play a still relatively low-owned Caprillian if I need to pay down, because they have pretty similar numbers this year. Cool has a 16.6% strikeout percentage, 10% walk percentage, 4.95 xFIP, compared to 15.7% strikeout percentage, 10% walk percentage, 5.26 xFIP for Caprillian. Pretty similar numbers, but you're talking about facing Shohei Ohtani, Taylor Ward, and a bunch of guys that strike out a ton for the Angels, compared to the new look Padres lineup that now has added Juan Soto and Josh Bell and Brandon Drury, in addition to Cronenworth, Machado, Profar. It's just night and day difference, the matchup. So I have a very difficult time getting the Cool.
Yeah, definitely. The Padres lineup looks pretty killer now. We did get a super chat from Scott. Thanks for the super chat. He says, favorite pitchers and stacks from Adam, please. I won't take any offense to that, Adam. What are you thinking with pitcher and stack today?
Ohtani, Snell, Cobb, I do like as a lower owned option in tournaments. As far as stacks go, right with the way ownership looks right now, I will take my chances on the Dodgers against Cobb. Obviously not in the same lineup as I'm playing Cobb. And then I mean the Padres look good. They're getting a ton of ownership. So do the Brewers. So I kind of feel like I'm cheating by saying them, but I'll throw the Dodgers out there as a team that like is actually good and not getting a ton of ownership.
Nice. Now on this final game, Colorado and San Diego, what are you thinking stack wise?
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of talked about Colorado where Snell at least has that tendency occasionally to be absolute garbage, but still really difficult to want to get there. The middle of the order, CJ Cron, Brendan Rodgers, Randall Grichuk, those guys can all do damage, but it's clearly a very low probability play. On the other side with the Padres, it's just a matter of can you balance out the amount of ownership that the Padres are going to take up with the rest of your lineup. It's tough on a slate like this. And it's tough to even say like where I'm going to end up at, because I think the Padres are an extremely good stack against Chad Kuhl, but I'm not likely to be playing a bunch of lineups where like I have a 50% owned Snell plus a 70% owned Ohtani plus 40% owned Soto, 31% owned Machado. It gets kind of ridiculous at that point. And there's no real easy way to differentiate with the Padres. Their lowest owned guy right now is Drury at 10%. He's also $5,900. So you're definitely overpaying for that, even though he has been really good this year. That's one way you can go, but still talking about like the other four guys in your stack, it's just gonna be a popular team. So I would think that from a roster construction standpoint, a lot of my Padres stacks maybe have Alex Cobb or maybe even Caprillion or something like that, and then I'm pairing them with maybe the Rockies or the Angels or these lower owned teams, because I really like the Padres here, but the ownership is also an issue.
Definitely. Good stuff, man. Just one final note before we turn it over to the live before lock, guys. I just checked the weather data in St. Louis for this Cubs versus the Cardinals game. I'm still seeing it's just going to be way too rainy for there to be any sort of semblance of a window to play baseball. So I'd be very surprised if this game happens. My best guess is it's going to get postponed before it starts. But basically what I'm doing is I'm just going to X out that game and cruncher and pretend like it doesn't exist. What's your approach right now, Adam?
I use our postponement percentages in the projections, so it naturally just like knocks down how much of them I get to.
Nice. All right, good stuff, man. So just make sure to stay tuned for deeper or for live before lock. Eric and Greg will be on here taking you all the way up to 7 p.m. And we'll keep an eye on the St. Louis situation, because on a 5-game slate, that's going to make a huge difference. Before we turn it over here, guys, if you can hit that like button, we're going to shoot for 200 likes before they jump on here. So appreciate you guys as always. And good luck tonight and stay tuned.
What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stokastic here on the Odd Chopper channel, coming to you with my 3 favorite prize picks for the MLB slate today on Wednesday night. Smash that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. That way you can know when all the great content here at Odd Chopper is going live. And of course, yesterday, I'm sorry, apparently Aaron Judge and Peter Alonso can't get over on total bases. That's a bad beat, because we got the Lindor home run in the trio. We got the Rizzo and Donaldson home runs in the trio, but somehow the guys who are supposed to hit home runs did not. So welcome to baseball. It's unenjoyable, but we try to make the best decisions we can every single day to be profitable. That's what we're going to do again today. Use promo code AWESEMO too to be profitable before we even start. Up to $100 first match deposit bonus. Doesn't get easier or better than that. And then fire it up on these plays. Let's get to it, shall we? Here's the board. You know where I like to start at a lot of times. And I think there's 2 plays that stand out in the evening window for pitcher fantasy score. Don't mind these. These games are starting in 10 minutes? Cool. Awesome. Nifty. We're starting. I know it's 3:40 p.m. my time, 6:40 p.m. for you East Coasters, but I want the under a 43.5 for Sandy Alcantara here. Sandy Alcantara, if you will. Sandy Alcantara is really, really good at pitching. There's no doubt about it. He had a bad outing last time out against the Mets. A lot of people are going to have bad outings against the Mets. They're a very good offense, but 8 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, only 5 strikeouts. And that's kind of the thing that I really want to focus on is these strikeout numbers. 3 of his last 5 games, he's gone 10 plus strikeouts. 10 plus strikeouts, but yet he's only got a 24% K percentage on the season. That isn't very high amongst elite pitchers, especially for the guy that we know he's the standaway frontrunner to win the NL Cy Young. So I just got to ask, 43.5. I understand this Cincinnati offense without Tommy Pham, without Brandon Drury. It looks really, really bleak. There's no doubt about it. But we are still going to need some Aristides Aquino strikeouts. I mean, he's going to have to strike out probably twice here in this spot if he's in the lineup. This caller is, I can't even say his name. I'm not even going to try. Papierski, for sure, the catcher, strikes out 27.5% of the time. Matt Reynolds, probably your everyday second baseman now for Cincinnati, 27.3%. So there are strikeouts above expectation. But think about this. He still only strikes out right around 25% of batters. I mean, that's a really low number, 24%. So, even if you get inflated strikeout numbers here, and he goes 7 innings, which is very likely for Alcantara here, 7 innings, that's 21 fantasy points. He's still going to need 7 strikeouts, the quality start, not the win in that kind of a situation, but 7 Ks for 7 innings and 0 earned is asking for a lot here. And there is no offense on the other side of him here. So in terms of getting the win, I know that they're massive minus. I played like one lineup on that slate. Thank God for that. What is going on, everybody? Oh, we're just live. Okay, that was the 3, 2, 1. Done. Okay, way to go, Tyler Zander. Doing a great job producing. Welcome, everybody, to the MLB Live Before Lock show presented by Odd Chopper. I'm Eric Lindquist. Excited to talk some baseball. Let's get to it, shall we? We have 5/ going to be 4 games, in my opinion. Looking forward to it, per usual. Not because I like this slate by any means. I'm playing pretty light because I don't really have a lot that I want to do here. But my friend Greg Ehrenberg might. He's at G. Ehrenberg Good Lord, how many times have I said this? At G. Ehrenberg DFS on Twitter. He is Greg Ehrenberg. How are you doing, my dude?
I'm good. We're all kinds of disjointed to start the show, are we not? So we have Tyler's countdown. Like, all right, I'm going to count you down for 5, and then we're going to go. And then, all right, and then we're live. So, like, that was confusing. Now, you don't know who I am, apparently. It's part of that thing. As you guys know, Eric just turned 40. So it's dementia, early onset dementia. It happens to the best of us. You can't mess up my name and think I'm just going to think that's all right.
That's fine. September 19th, you guys can all send me stuff for my 35th birthday.
Eric, if you
5 years younger than this stupid bit.
He doesn't remember his birthday. He doesn't remember how old he is.
Look in the Zoom call in the bottom left. It has Greg's name there for you if you keep forgetting who you're on the show with. It's Greg.
The lack of bass in this man's voice is alarming. Should I get down into a lower register for the rest of the show?
Well, I don't know if he's talking. He could be talking about you. He could be talking about me. It could be Tyler. It could be any of us. So we don't even know. Slate breaker. Let us know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Whose voice sucks? Who do you hate? Actually, it doesn't even say it sucks. It's just the lack of bass in this man's.
If he was clever, he would say all of us.
He would.
Let's see what his response
Tyler,
is.
Here's the thing, though. So, I mean, there's conversations to be had about where you're breathing from, about your diaphragm, about speaking truthfully and honestly. And what happens is that when people lie, they end up here, and it's whatever. Because, I'm a real boy. Oh, you guys should definitely play these plays, but I'm actually going to play the other plays. I'm trying to make you guys look stupid. But what happens is that eventually, at some point, you learn to breathe from your diaphragm when you are comfortable. And I feel like I am comfortable with my friend Greg. He takes care of me. I take care of him. Tip to tip season. It is always that. It is always that. Look at that. We got Tyler Zander on board with it too. It's a beautiful time to be alive. I'm sure we have the background art in full effect. Let's get to it, shall we? Hey, everybody. Good to see you, Blitz, Guitar Man 247, Shark Killer G, Sotex, Larry C, Obi-Wan, Michael Roundtree, Malakar, everybody. that we love seeing in the chat, hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. Yes, not a ton of baseball today for this afternoon slate. First of all, how was your morning slate? I only played 2 lineups and they did not go well.
So I let's see, I could pull it up right now. I only played on DraftKings, not FanDuel. I made $145. So not bad. It was profitable. Can't complain about that. My primary lineup was a White Sox stack, and even though they only scored 4 runs, there was pretty good games. Jose Abreu homered, Eloy Jimenez had a few hits. So overall, the White Sox stacks, that was my primary single entry. Like everybody was 2% owned in the stack. I had lineups that nobody else did, and did okay. Nothing crazy, but positive money, which I can't complain about.
Lovely. Triple tip? Yeah, triple tip. Tri-tip, if you will. Delicious. Smoky like the meat. I don't know.
Where did this come from?
Because we all 3 of us did tip to tip at the same time.
Oh, I didn't realize that Tyler was in on it too. Tip to tip.
It was tri-tip.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
3-man
4 strands of tip. I don't know why 3 ninjas came to my mind for that one, but it's true. It just happened. We could be Rocky, Colt, and Tum Tum. Who would be who is the question.
What's the what was the movie? The Human Centipede. Right?
No idea what that is.
You don't know the Human Centipede? Do you know
I
what
don't.
I'm
I was
about?
just talking 3 Ninjas, a good movie, a movie that is part of childhood lore. If you were a 90s baby, such as myself.
I'm just saying there's different ways to do tip to tip to tip.
Okay. Interesting. 3 Ninjas. Rocky, Colt, and Tum Tum. There's no way. I mean, Greg is Rocky. I'm Colt. Tyler Zander is definitely Tum Tum. There's like no question about this, right? I think that's the chalk. And I think we kind of personify each of those people.
It's Tyler's flexing in the background.
Oh my God. Rocky loves Emily. Rocky loves Emily. So freaking good. And then they go 3 Ninjas kick back and they go to Japan and Rocky loves me, yo. Rocky loves me, yo. Yes, I know all these. It's disturbing.
Yeah, I'm telling you, people think that Human Centipede is disturbing. Wait until you see the X-rated version of it that there's different ways that we can make it, the 3 of us, that we could recreate the Human Centipede.
Okay.
Tip to tip to tip, baby.
Well, on that note, no better way to jump into a baseball slate than a little chit chat on the front end here. Let's talk weather. St. Louis, Chicago. Do you think this game plays? I do not.
Yeah, so I have it out of my player pool. I wore the glasses today so I could look a little bit closer at some radar maps here, and it doesn't look great. Not at all. By the way, of all the movie references you make, I can't believe you don't know Human Centipede.
I don't know Human Centipede at all.
Is this the first time I've had a movie reference that you haven't gotten? And this is a really
Probably
common
true.
one too. Like if
Wait,
you had to...
You weren't kidding about that, Eric? You really don't?
No,
you've
I've
never
literally,
heard of
I
that
have
movie?
no idea what he's talking about.
Oh, wow. You were
Interesting.
in for
I've
a
never
surprise.
heard of it. Never seen it.
Honestly, if we were to ask people in chat if they know what Human Centipede is, I would be pretty surprised if it was less than 95% of people. I just assume everybody knows Human Centipede.
Really?
Yeah.
How does somebody who literally, I mean, I feel pretty good about my pop culture, my movie references. You want me on your bar trivia team. You need me on your bar trivia team. That's weird to me.
And it's a movie from 10 years ago? It's a horror movie.
Never seen it. Never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's gotten spoofed a bunch of times.
Eric, it's disgusting. Eric is so innocent. LOL. Tum Tum, nostalgic at Lindquist. Yes. See, that's the good stuff. I'm here for the wholesome 3 Ninjas content. When 3 men, along with their Japanese godfather or grandfather, they literally do karate and then they have to take down their dad works for the FBI. They go on the ship. They're ready to go. They're ready to rock. And then in kickback, they go to Japan to go save the grandpa again. It's amazing stuff.
That's more or less what the Human Centipede is about as well.
That's what I was gathering.
Wasn't there one that
Not to be confused with The Gathering, another movie I've actually seen.
It's probably the worst horror movie made in our lifetime, to be honest, because it's not scary at any point. It's just very odd and disturbing.
Somebody say 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. There's no way it does. No
For
way.
Human Centipede, no chance. Let me pull this up. Legitimately one of the worst movies made in our lifetime. It is a 25% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is that good?
No, it's not good. It's got the spilled popcorn bucket next to the audience score.
It's never ideal.
It's a very bad movie.
It's really hard to get 25% from an audience score. Like there's certain movies I know off the top of my head where I'm like, there's only few where like the critics absolutely love it and the audience hates it. Like that's The Lobster. Like The Lobster, I know for a fact has a crazy high critic score and a crazy low audience score, but you rarely ever get any kind of like a disparity like that. It's just crazy.
Not only somebody said that there's a Human Centipede 2. Not only is there a Human Centipede 2, I believe there's a Human Centipede 3.
All right, we're having this conversation, and I haven't even Googled Human Centipede. All right, here we
The
go.
Human Centipede, actually, the third one might just be a book.
What in the absolute hell am I looking at?
Human Centipede? If you're looking at the right
Look
thing,
at all these actors that they cast in it. They all are the scariest looking people I've ever seen in my life.
So here's the other thing too. This is how old and washed Eric is. He's about to find out he was in the movie as he looks through the cast list.
Oh my God. Okay. Watching some of the trailer. No thanks. I'm good, by the way.
You don't want us to do that together, the three of us?
Nope. Really don't.
Oh, all right.
Really
I thought we were
don't.
closer than this.
Thumbs up for today's stacks. I suppose we can talk baseball. We can hit the like button, but I'm telling you, we're covering 4 games. I don't know what do you want from me?
I mean, they want more Human Centipede talk, which you're just not
really
knowledgeable
don't
enough in the subject matter.
Yeah, we're
But by the way, to answer your question from before, the one baseball question we've been asked today, I took the Cardinals Cubs game out of my player pool. So the St. Louis weather, I'm going to pull up the radars and the hour by hour forecast as we talk through this. And the last I looked at it was about 15 minutes ago before we started the show. And I assume things haven't gotten better since then, but it was really ominous looking. It was something like 90% chance of rain throughout most of the night. There was a brief opening where there was, if everything broke perfectly, there was a chance they could get this in, but it looks really unlikely. Actually, it looks worse than from what it was before. So right around first pitch, we have a 56% chance of rain, and then it's like 90, 80, 100% chance all the way until tomorrow morning. I think this game's extremely unlikely to play. I took it out of my player pool.
It's also 2 teams, and I do factor this in. If they're in the same division, these are division rivals, obviously. They can have a lot of opportunities between now and the end of the season to make it up. It's not that difficult, both geographically and schedule-wise.
So here's my hope, though. I really hope they don't cancel this game in advance because I'm so confident it doesn't play. Like, I don't want this to be a scenario where other people get to know ahead of the game lock. Like, I think the biggest edge on this slate is not playing that game and it rains out.
I think the biggest edge is what you're going to do with Shohei Ohtani.
No. It's
30% of people aren't going to play Shohei Ohtani today.
Yeah, but as of right now, 10% of the field is stacking the Cardinals or the Cubs.
It's true. That's bad. Don't be one of them. Let's talk pitching, shall we? Because we've got a couple of things. Once again, smash the like button, subscribe button, notification bell. But that like button, get those counts up. The boss man, he's the sharpest dude in the entire industry. I don't think that it's remotely close. He is the best when it comes to data. His brain, he's like Megamind in a lot of ways. But shit at getting likes. We need like buttons. We need likes here. Have a talk with him, Greg. Let him know we need more likes. And there we go. We continue on to pitching. Shohei Ohtani, 30% of the field isn't going to play him. And that is silly to me because I want 100% of him on DraftKings where I can roster 2 pitchers. I'll rotate through my other ones, but against Oakland in Anaheim, Greg, why would you not just jam him?
It's hard to find a reason not to other than... So I'm overweight to Ohtani in my current build. I don't have 100% of him, though. Like, there's still other pitchers that I'm mixing in. There's other pitching combinations I like to get to. I also think it's not ridiculous if you're playing 150 lineups on a slate that I'm now essentially playing as a 4-game slate to get to some exposure of the A's just for leverage check solely for the purpose of it's going to be a 4-game slate. And also something to consider also. So we have Ohtani right now projected for 69% ownership on DK. Over on FanDuel, he's projected for 43% ownership. But Miles Michaelis is projected for 18% ownership and 14% going to Justin Steele on DK. Over on FanDuel, Michaelis at 11 and Justin Steele at 8. So we have a lot of ownership to allocate as well. And actually, I think I just read off the top stack odds, not the ownership. But either way, there's ownership going to those pitchers. And I think most of it just gets allocated to Ohtani. I think he's going to be like 80% owned.
Yeah. And that's 20% too low.
I don't think he's worth being 100% played over the course of 150 lineups. He's clearly a very good play. I'm not willing to play him 100% though.
How many fantasy points do you have him projected for?
I'm just using our projections to build our lineups, which is way more than any other pitcher on the slate.
24 was what we have for him here at Stokastic. 24.11. Blake Snell, sub 20. Julio Urias, sub 20. Maybe not 100 in 150, but I'm playing 50, and I'm going to play him in 100% of my lineups. I'll just find other ways to get different.
I need to do a run once we get the San Francisco Giants lineup in, and then I'll know a little bit clearer. But I think I'm going to end up somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% of Ohtani. It's a lot, but 100% is a little much for me.
Okay. Well, there are other guys to roster here on this slate, and one of them, Blake Snell, I think is kind of the next guy to really have a discussion about. You get this Colorado lineup, it's going to be without Chris Bryant once again. That's a huge upgrade. Maybe not necessarily always from a strikeout perspective, because Chris Bryant can do that from time to time, but he definitely is a lefty killer. And removing him and having it be Grichuk and Connor Joe at the back half of this lineup, Jonathan Daza back half of this lineup. You get Montero in there. God, I just don't see how Blake Snell isn't just a phenomenal play here either. All the buzz and all the land is on San Diego going into this game. I love the fact that we're getting to see all the shiny new toys that they have playing right out of the gate on Wednesday. But how do you kind of factor Blake Snell's ownership relative to that of Julio Urias when he's 1,200 less over on DK? I mean, just another guy that feels like they're going to have in a bunch of lineups today.
Yeah, so relative to ownership, I do prefer Blake Snell to Julio Urias. Urias on the road in San Francisco, it's a really favorable pitcher's park, but still, Urias is not the highest strikeout pitcher in the world. There's a $1,200 salary savings we're getting on Blake Snell to the point you had before. We also have Blake Snell projected for more fantasy points. So I do prefer Snell, at least in my current build. I'm a little bit overweight to Snell, a little bit underweight to Urias. And then I have one pitcher who's a lot cheaper that I'm kind of taking a little bit of a stand on. Like at some point, I feel like I have to do something contrarian at pitcher because like you, I'm playing this as a 4-game slate. If you guys are just playing, 5-10 lineups and you only want to use Ohtani, Snell, and Urias as your pitchers, that's all well and good. Over the course of 150 lineups, though, I do feel like I have to work in some other guys.
Smelly Snell, not really. He's a really good play. I don't know how you could possibly say that he isn't.
Yeah, I guess if somebody is really anti-Snell, I guess for cash games, you can make the case you're going Ohtani, Urias, which is also reasonable. I do think there's a higher floor on Urias than Snell. I think the ceiling's much higher for Snell, though.
I agree. I think I would just play Snell anyway because he's 1,200 less, and you're going to upgrade a bat somewhere. Like that money can come in handy. But now you do have the Urias conversation, and we can talk about each one of these guys specifically because once again, there's only 8 pitchers that are going to be showing up, that I think are in play, and actually just 4 for me that I'm going to be getting to in any capacity. Urias is, of course, one of them going up against San Francisco. His power suppression numbers are awesome. Doesn't strike out batters nearly as well as Snell, and definitely not as close as Ohtani, but San Francisco, they also have Darren Ruff shipped off. Did JD Davis make that lineup? Is he going to play today? I did not see that.
Who did you ask about?
JD Davis, if he was going to be available today. I tried to find that out earlier.
Let me look at.
Because Darren Ruff got shipped off, and they just did.
Well, we don't have the lineup out yet, so it's hard to say.
Gotcha.
What most likely is going to happen is he's gonna start and get 2 plate appearances, right?
Right.
Kind of like the other day, where, by the way, maybe the worst play of the entire season. JD Davis in single entry the other day was something like 70% owned. He went 0 for 2 and got pinch hit for.
It was beautiful. He was a full fade. I saw he was like the 2K 2100 de jour guy. And hey, he's going from one spot where he's going to get pinch hit for lefties to another spot where he's going to get pinch hit.
Yeah, exactly.
For lefties eventually. So That'll be enjoyable. But I will say, just in terms of like a small number of a projection, just seeing who that righty will be. Evan Longoria, I believe, still on the IL. So, I mean, obviously, there's just a huge downgrade. It's a very bad San Francisco lineup compared to what they might have been rolling out there at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and then as for JD Davis, because Sean V is saying he's terrible against righties, he is. Against lefties, he's not, though. So
that's the point.
JD Davis, for his career against left-handed pitching versus right-hand pitching, I'll bring up his splits. He's actually been good against both. I thought he was bad against righties. First career, 115 WRC plus against left-hand pitching, 116 against righties, like well above average against pitchers of both handedness.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating looking at it. Strikes out about the same. I mean, he strikes out a lot. There's that right on right hits for better average, hits for more slugging over the course of his career. I don't know what it is. Oh, here you go. That is really strange that he's like a platoon guy.
Yeah, so it's because you get some of these platoon guys, and I just assume, because we're so programmed, it's like, oh, look, JD Davis against a lefty. He hits lefties well. I want to play him. Like, that's generally been the rule over the last few years. And then you look at his numbers like, oh, he's actually been really good against lefties and righties, and it's kind of not what you would expect.
I don't care about his career. He sucks. He hasn't done anything this season. I don't think he's actually been that bad this season, for what it's worth.
He's been pretty mediocre. I
think he has over 100 WRC plus against. Is literally 100. He's middle of the road.
He's a 101. Yeah, 101 WRC plus for the season. He was a 130 WRC plus last year. For his career, 116 WRC plus, which makes sense. 115 against lefties, 116 against righties for his career. But yeah, he's been slightly above average at the plate overall for the season. Zips hasn't projected for a 117 WRC plus moving forward. Steamer 120 WRC plus moving forward. Yeah, he's a decently above average hitter who actually hits well against lefties and righties, but is likely going to get pinch hit for when a righty comes in, because that's just kind of the status quo, when apparently it shouldn't be looking at his numbers.
Yeah, 70 out of 70 raw power as well. Obviously, he's going to the third worst ballpark in terms of home runs. Still, San Francisco, middle of the road in terms of creating runs, large dimensions. Here you go. Good talk. It's kind of fun to be able to talk about the nuances of things that we don't always get to on larger slates. So thank you for walking through that with the people. Sean V, you are wrong. And T. McBee coming in. Good to see Terry McBride. You need to account for the fact that the Mets have been completely mismanaged the last few years. He's actually an okay player. That's kind of what I'm observing, is that he shouldn't just be a platoon guy.
No, and I mean, he hardly gets any at-bats because he makes these starts against left-handed. He gets like 2 plate appearances and gets lifted from games. Yeah, it's so pretty silly looking at his numbers.
Wow, fascinating. What was that?
Me dropping something.
Oh, cool. Awesome. That's great. Let's keep talking pitching, though. Urias, how much of him are you planning on getting here as you're going through your builds?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit underweight to him, mostly because I'm overweight to Snell. I'm like I said, I'm not playing Ohtani in 100% of my lineups, but I'm still overweight to him. And if I'm overweight to a pitcher that's projected for 70% ownership, and then overweight to another pitcher projected for 50% ownership, it's hard to also be overweight to Urias, who's projected for 40% ownership. So
there is.
I think he's very safe today, relative to other pitchers we have to choose from. Like, I think he's, like I said before, I think he's a little bit safer than Blake Snell if you're looking for an SP2 in cash games. More ceiling for Snell, but it's hard to argue anybody else is nearly as safe as those three. We've got Miles Michaelis, Justin Steele taking them off the board. And then we've got Alex Cobb, who I think is a really good contrarian pitching option, but sure, shit isn't safe against the Dodgers. Then we've got Freddie Peralta, who I'm expecting probably 65 pitches in 4 innings from him.
Mm-hmm.
Makes him really difficult to roster. And then you just got flyers in Caprillion and Chad Kuhl.
Come, Caprillion.
I realize you say that every 5 days now.
I do. Why wouldn't I? It's fun. Come and go. Usually go because he's terrible at pitching.
Well, people are going to play him tonight because he's going up against a terrible offense, but hard for me to get there.
Hard for me to get there, too. Sean V's favorite pitcher, I believe, on the board. I believe the word was lock him in that I saw earlier, which is hilarious to me. It's hilarious.
Who is his favorite pitcher?
Oh, Caprillion.
Oh, Caprillion? Yeah, I mean, he's picking up ownership, not anything crazy, right? Let me check. Let me refresh the
I
ownership.
will say, and then this is not defending Sean B. I feel like there are slates like this where I've actually played Caprillion. I don't think there's really that much of a need to do it tonight. Like, it's an Angels team that could strike out. One thing could give where the Angels are just terrible, and it wouldn't surprise me. But like, I would much rather just be. It's really hard. JD Davis is in the lineup today. Look at that. See, there's other things that you come to Live Before Lock to discuss. So we just talked about everything with JD Davis. Maybe they don't pinch hit for him because they need a third baseman and he can actually play it. No, he can't. He's not very good at field.
Yeah, let's see. What does that Giants lineup look like? Because I haven't seen it come across yet. I'll pull up Twitter.
I got it automatically updated in my sheet, so it had to have come in from somewhere. I don't know where it came in from, but it had JD Davis in the lineup.
By the way, somebody DM me on Twitter a list of the 9 worst horror movies of the last decade. Says he dared. This is by the way, I'll shout him out because I know he's watching. Dexter L. Mackey. He says I dare to watch all these movies back to back to back. And I mean, that's somewhat in the spirit of Human Centipede, watching movies back to back to back in order like that. But shout out to Dexter L. Mackey for sending me that list on Twitter. Yeah, I haven't seen the Giants lineup on Twitter yet. Where'd it go?
I just had JD Davis update in my sheet. So I'm trying to find it. I just know that JD Davis is in the lineup for whatever reason, because it would not come in unless it came in from a correct place. So
there we go. Slater, Flores, Belt, Mercedes, JD Davis, Gonzalez, Bart, Machado, Johnson. That's a pretty shitty lineup.
It's a pretty shitty lineup.
Surprised Belt's in there versus lefties. He's been sitting against lefties a lot lately.
So let's think about this. So, I mean, obviously that lineup is not exactly what you would want if you're a Giants fan, or, I mean, just what you want in DFS to roster them on the other side. JD Davis, around a 32% strikeout rate on this season. That's up from 26% for his career. Joey Bart strikes out a ton. Brandon Belt, Dixon Machado, Austin Slater have always struck out quite a bit, over 26.7%, all of them here. Basically, this Bryce Johnson character, I don't have any stats for him.
For Bryce Johnson?
Yeah, who is that? Never heard of him in my life. I'm clicking on things.
Bryce Johnson is making his major league debut. We're looking at his minor league numbers right now. Oh, this is never a good sign. He is 26 years old with no prospect profile on Fangraphs. And in AAA, he is a 91 WRC plus this year.
Awesome. I'm going to get to more Urias based on everything that we're saying here, by the way. There's an error message on Savant when you click on his name. We did not find the page you were looking for. Did you type the link correctly? Yeah, sure did.
Yeah, please never look up this player again. Julio Urias splits this year. You know, it's always hard to say also, because I think some of these hitters are so terrible. Like, how much does it matter if he's been worse against righties and lefties in a significant way? It is a pretty righty heavy lineup, but let's pull this up.
I mean, it's always going to be a righty heavy lineup, but it has 2 lefties, obviously, right off the bat, Belt and Gonzalez.
His numbers are actually really good against righties anyway.
Yep, he's good. I might try to get to a little bit more of him than what I was kind of planning on. I thought it was a pretty clear jam Ohtani, jam Snell for 1,200 less. I feel like there's a case to be able to get to some Urias. And what I will say is maybe this, just because of how well he's going to profile out for me now in this spot, a couple point projection, maybe I don't lock button Ohtani. Maybe I do the same thing as you, where I get to like 80, 85%.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm going to be, but it's mostly because I want to have some combinations of Snell and Urias. Like, I think it's well within the realm of possibility that Snell and Urias is just the optimal pitching combination today. And also, I'm playing 80% Shohei Ohtani. That's, to me, I think that's a lot of one individual player. I just want to have some Snell Urias combinations, and I want to get to some of Alex Cobb, who we'll talk about in a little bit, because to me, I think he's the contrarian pitcher that makes the most sense. Although with that said, his ownership has now come up to 17% because the ownership has dropped on Miles Mikolas and Justin Steele due to the weather. I know people are going to ask us about Freddie Peralta, mostly because I was just assuming that was going to be the case. And then also we've already seen a question. Arcathel's asked about him earlier. I'm not playing Freddie Peralta. I'm expecting to throw somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 pitches.
I'm not playing any Freddie Peralta either. 0%. Same thing as yesterday. 0% Jacob deGrom worked out great.
Not that great. He crushed yesterday.
Kevin Gausman had 40. You needed him. At least I had 15% of him, which ended up being almost the field. We had him projected north of 30. Everybody. It's incredible how that happens with Corbin Burns. It's impossible to project Corbin Burns because I ended up being underweight to him, and I ended up being at the field on Gausman. And every place you looked, no matter what, you would have felt looking at my exposures that I would be over on Corbin Burns, and I would have been under, like way under on Kevin Gausman.
Yeah. So yesterday, but DeGrom crushed Burns yesterday. I think if you actually built the optimal lineup, if I'm not mistaken, I think it might have been DeGrom and Gausman as the pitchers.
Oh, no. Strider and Gausman.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
They both had
Strider.
40 spots, and Strider I had 80-something% of, so I had a very good night.
Yeah. Well, in hindsight, I wish I would have played less Burns and some of that to DeGrom, but
yeah,
it is what it is. If I would have actually known DeGrom, because I had said that yesterday, where it was, because I did think people were actually going to play DeGrom. He ended up being 3% owned. If I knew he was going to be 3% owned, I would have been interested.
Mike Campbell, who said that Spencer Strider was overpriced at 8,300 yesterday? Who said that?
I don't want to miscredit. I want to say it was Dope the Heathen in the strategy show yesterday, but I don't want to throw shade on the wrong person. But
all right, well, somebody's going to get banned is what's going to happen. Somebody's going to get banned.
But if I'm pretty sure it was him. He said the highest price you. Oh, okay, my bad. All right, people in chat. It was King of Smack.
King of Smack. Oh man, King of Snack. He just got thrown under the bus. You guys
he did very
snitches
quickly.
Get stitches, baby.
Yeah.
You guys just came in hot.
Yeah, he said that there was, I think, no way to argue, or something along the lines of, he said the highest price Strider should be is 7,000. I think that was the number.
I was contemplating lock buttoning him yesterday. Ended up I got like 6th or 7th in the $4 and had a couple of good ones. I needed more Gausman than the 15%, but I digress. It was still a really good night. I think Giolito actually worked out pretty well too, because he was cheap, got the win, got over right at 20 or just over 20. So I think that gave you some access to some different kind of expensive bats too. So it was a fun slate. Hopefully we can recreate some of the magic here again tonight. And yeah, while we're talking about that, before we close the loop on pitching, I got to bring up some things because we're at the halfway point of the show already. I don't know how these shows fly like they do, but that's what happens when you talk the Human Centipede. Underdog, they've launched the Puppy 3 Best Ball contest for the 2022 NFL season, and you guys need to be checking that out. Best Ball is a blast unless you drafted tons of Tim Patrick like me. Rip City to that yesterday, week 17. Pay attention to it. I like to think about playoffs quite a bit when I'm building out Best Ball. But we have the kits and we have the tools to help you be successful and think about those same exact things, because using promo code Puppy3 right now, 90% off. It's just going to be $1 for weekly access to the Best Ball kit. So if you want something for $1, we're talking, a chicken sandwich, do they still have the dollar menu at McDonald's? I'm sure that they do. That's basically what this is. This is the dollar menu at Stokastic. All you have to do is sign up using Puppy3 at checkout. You get the Best Ball fantasy football rankings, premium strategy content, consensus rankings, download and uploadable to Underdog Fantasy. Check that out. I love Best Ball. NFL, I promise you tomorrow with the Hall of Fame game, we're all going to have the itch and the bug. I'm looking forward to this season, and you guys should be too, especially if you enjoy these Best Ball drafts the way that I do. Use Puppy3, get that $1 weekly Best Ball draft kit. Cool. Any other pitchers to talk about? I think there were only 8. Also, I still think St. Louis looks like a horror zone.
Yep, I'll pull up the radar again because it's the most important. It really is the most important part of this slate right now. So weather.com, they currently have severe thunderstorm warnings. That is the first thing that comes up. Hourly forecast. Game time, 50% chance of rain. 64%, 78%, 90%, and then 100% towards the tail end of the game. So yeah, doesn't look promising.
Is the dollar menu $1.39 now? What bullshit? What kind of sorcery is that?
Yeah, go get cheaper. Go get food cheaper somewhere else.
$1.39 is not a dollar menu. $1 is a
Arizona.
dollar menu.
Arizona tea still 99 cents though. God bless America.
God bless America is right. That's incredible. Tiny window between 8 and 9:30. No, T McP, don't say stuff like that. Don't do that. Oh, I can't do it. Dollar Tree is now $1.59. See, everything I thought was real is now a lie. It's an illusion. Inflation exists. I get it. But Greg, how am I supposed to live my life knowing that the Dollar Tree now sells stuff for $1.59?
You're not. You should probably go to sleep and never wake up again. And then I'll do the show with Sean V.
Let's talk stacks, shall we? 5-man stacks. It's interesting. I do think on some of these smaller slates where I believe we're going to have 4 games, I can kind of mix it up a little bit to try to get some different builds. I don't want to, excuse me. I don't want to run the same 5-mans as everybody else and their dog, especially if that dog's Duke because he's super cute. But who is your single entry stack on today's slate?
All right. So I'm waiting on an ownership update because it looks like we've updated the pitchers because there's now only 4% ownership going to Miles Michaelis and 1% ownership going to Justin Steele. But we have not gotten an update from the offensive ownership in the same way in the top stacks. So I'm refreshing this to see if it's changed. It has not. So one thing that's that I'm looking, because I'm just taking St. Louis and Chicago off the board. As of right now, we have them both being really positively leveraged, and that is not something I really want to be backing. I really do want to get the updated ownership. I can't really stack against James Caprillion in a heavy way, even though I would like to, because he's picking up some ownership because we can't roster Shohei Ohtani, which is a train wreck for DFS purposes. Just ruins every Ohtani slate from an offensive perspective. I'm leaning towards the Dodgers against Alex Cobb, although I don't really feel great about that either. The Padres are way too popular against Chad Kuhl. I think really what I'm in between right now is the Dodgers have really low ownership against Cobb. Although once again, I need that ownership update to really see what some of those numbers look like with the weather concerns. That or potentially going with Milwaukee against the Pittsburgh Pirates. While Milwaukee does look to be really popular, at least our top stack still shows it's warranted because they have 21% top stack odds to 22% ownership share. So it's not like the ownership is way out of line. Whereas a team like the Padres, we have with a 26% ownership share and a 17% chance to be the top scoring team.
Yeah, my slate is going to kind of be dictated by the Dodgers and the Brewers. I think everybody wants to take the new shiny toys out for a spin, that being Josh Bell and, of course, Juan Soto. This lineup looks much better than it did yesterday. I'll put it that way. You get an actual serviceable first baseman. You even get Drury there. I will say, I think Brandon Drury is the guy that I'm going to be the most overweight to on San Diego. Batting 6th, he's way overpriced. And the main reason being he goes from Great American Ballpark to San Diego. Nothing gets changed in the algorithm because why would it? DraftKings doesn't have anything better to do than not care. So we might as well just play some Drury and get overweight to that. But as a team, there's no way that I'm going to get to anywhere close to, like, I'm of course going to have some stacks of San Diego, but like I'm going to be drastically under the field compared to what their ownership is right now.
Yeah, once again, I would really like to see the updated ownership if that Cardinals-Cubs game was taken out of the mix, but it does look like they're really, really popular right now, and I understand why. Chad Kuhl is not particularly good. The Padres offense looks like it should be pretty loaded. Like you also said, there's probably a little bit of recency bias baked into that. A whole bunch of these guys are showing up in my lineups as one-offs, like Juan Soto, but Juan Soto is projected for north of 40% ownership. Once we take the Cardinals-Cubs game out of the mix, like Juan Soto might be over 50% owned on this slate. So I'm mixing these guys in as one-offs, but I'm underweight to each individual hitter today.
Okay. Let me see. Yeah, I have 32% Brandon Drury. I'm going to take that down a little bit. That seems a little bit high. But I just like getting to him the most out of everybody in that lineup because pretty positive he's going to come in under-owned at that number.
I don't like this. I really hope that game doesn't get canceled until after the fact.
It doesn't look good. That's all I can say. And again, I'm not a fortune teller. You and I give the best analysis we possibly can. We're putting money every single day into these contests. We're trying to, we're trying to bank every single day too. there's no way what I'm looking at that I would ever want to put $1 of money into play on this game.
I don't know if I'd go that. If I feel pretty safe that it's not going to play, but if they get a couple innings in, it wouldn't shock me if they really try to push the action.
Okay. Joe Adele didn't make the Angels lineup. That's just heartbreaking to me. How bad do you have to be, dude? Come on. And I can't play Ohtani as a batter today in my league. It's just so stupid.
It's a brutal team to stack.
They're really brutal.
What do we have to do to get Ohtani eligible as a hitter on DraftKings and FanDuel on Daisy pitches?
Apparently something really, really forward. Here we go. If DFS players would actually take the we won't play this slate thing seriously one time, because it's never happened. It's been like 5 years, 8 years, because whatever always happens is the contest doesn't fill and it's like, oh, we'll overlay. And then people chase the overlay and then it's all over and it doesn't matter. It always ends up being kind of a deal. But like if somebody were to just be like, you know what, today we're not playing this slate because of how egregious this was, it would never happen again. They would do something about it.
Yeah, that's so unrealistic though. You need an actionable and scalable solution. Because there's no way we talked to a couple thousand people over the course of this show. There's no way that's enough to influence the entirety of DFS not play. And then you know what would happen also, because I'm a sneaky bitch. I would see there's a bunch of overlay and I'm maxing everything out anyway.
So I said, you're that guy.
I'm taking the money.
I know. Yeah,
and you are too.
Tour season. No, I'm not. I have a conscience. I have a moral boundary. T McB said Brewers top ranked team in power index. I love hearing that and love Drury hiding in the 6-hole. T McB, we're going to win all the money. Let's do it, my friend. Other stacks to get to on this slate. There's only so many teams. Let's do this because I think that this is a good thought exercise if you're building 150 lineups because you're a sicko today. But here we go. If you had a stack against one of these three popular pitchers being Ohtani, Blake Snell, or Julio Urias, which team are you more likely to stack up?
Let's see. Gonna refresh our ownership.
So my answer is probably Oakland, which is absurd.
You were playing 100% Ohtani 15 minutes ago.
I know, but I'm saying if I were, I'm not playing any of these three teams. I have like individual batters. I don't have a single stack of one of those three teams. But if I did, which one would I be looking at? And now that I said that, I think I will have to get to an Oakland one because if he's 80%, there you go. That's the most likely path to failure is Oakland actually does well or Ohtani gets hurt and then they score tons of runs.
Yeah, it's Oakland for me looking at my exposures. And it's just an easy team to get overweight to the field too. Also, they're projected for 1% ownership on a 4-game slate where Ohtani's projected to be over 70% owned now. If you build 150 lineups and you play 3 of them with the A's, you have double the exposure of the field.
It's pretty crazy to think about.
Going back to our point before, that's why I don't want to play 100% Ohtani. I'm playing 80% of them. I feel good about that number, but I do feel like just the way the slate breaks out and just the probability of outcomes, I need some exposure against him as well.
Okay. God, this Mickey Moniak character, why? What is going on in baseball today? These lineups are just so bad.
They're
everywhere. David Fletcher back at our left. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. What does it all mean? It means you suck. That's what it means.
Should I just up my exposure to Oakland for spite?
I'm thinking about doing it just because, I mean, he's so popular. He's so popular that maybe I have to do it. I have 88% Shohei Ohtani out of 50 lineups.
So it's like half your non-Ohtani lineups make them A's. Go 6% A's stats.
That's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that exactly while we go to oddshopper.com. That is the presenting sponsor here of Live Before Lock. It's the best site, period, for anybody who's into sports betting, anybody who loves data, loves being able to give free plays every single day, because guess what? The best dudes in the industry in Alex Baker, Steve Buzzard, Eddie Lai, Sean Zahn, they're the ones giving it to you. They're the ones giving you guys all the data and tools to be successful over at the Sports Betting Streaks. You want to be shopping for lines. You want to be shopping for the best odds. But hey, if you go to the props page over on OddsShopper, The best book to sign up and play at for every single prop is listed right next to the name. You have the projection, you have the expected ROI, you have the expected win percentage, and then you have the best place to place the bet all on one place. It's the one-stop shop for anything you guys need for sports betting, period. End of story. Shohei Ohtani, you can't roster him as a hitter, but look at that. Plus 425 over on DK to hit a home run. Yes, please. Give me all of that you've got. That can't be real life. Give me, okay, I might have to make a call. There you go. 30% expected ROI, Shohei Ohtani. We can get exposure to him as a hitter today. That's the only way I found out. Greg, what stands out to you on the odd chopper board for today's slate?
First of all, has the Marlins game locked yet?
Yes, 5 minutes ago.
For betting purposes, has it locked though?
Yes, it did.
Okay. All right. So I was going to say the under on strikeouts for Sandy Alcantara.
I already hit that, and I hit the under on 43.5 on Prize Picks.
What was his? Was he 7.5 on Prize Picks as well?
7.5, and then it was 43.5 for a player projection. And I liked the under on the projection even more because like 21 outs, and then another 21. Also, Marlins are like minus 210 favorites, and I love Sandy Alcantara. Like, I love this dude. He's so fun. He doesn't have the flames. He throws a high 90s fastball, but he doesn't get the strikeouts you would expect from a guy of his kind of pedigree and for being such a massive NL Cy Young favorite. But yeah, that's 43.5 is a ridiculous projection.
So I'm looking through what's available now, and I just realized a lot of the bets I placed. Well, actually, every bet I placed today was from a game that's either already ended or just started, the Alcantara under strikeout. So I'll go with the hot Don pick. Jared Walsh plus 450 to home. Actually, you know what? Strikeout prop. I know we don't think the game plays, but under 5.5 strikeouts for Miles Michaelis, because like we saw in chat from Terry before, there is a slight chance that they get in part of the game. And there's like an hour window where there's a 50% chance of rain. I very highly doubt they play 9 innings. Is there a chance they play 5 and some of the starters go out there and able to pitch some innings? So I think Miles Michaelis under 5.5 strikeouts, and then you just hope that they get a few innings in the game and he's able to hit the under. That's where I would lean, actually.
Okay. I am here for that. That's one of my favorite strategies for Prize Picks is trying to target. I know I did it with the Shane Bieber outing earlier this season where it came in and it got rained out after like 3 innings. It was so fun to slam the under on that, have it work out. Definitely 5.5 is a pretty large number against the Cubs as is. So I love that play. I love that call. And make sure you pay attention to your sportsbook's rules too when it comes to that. I know that some books grade it out differently at other places. If you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing with somebody in particular that takes bets for you or something, make sure that you have those rules explicitly put somewhere so that you're able to cover yourself. Just word to the wise in those kind of regards. All right. We head to the board again here. We got 17 minutes here until lock. We'll pay attention to weather here constantly, but I want to know if there's any other kind of specific batters that you might be looking at, because we've talked about all of the stacks and all the land. I want to know which batters you happen to be landing on the most on today's slate.
Yeah, so I just did another run of my lineups. Number one with the Giants lineup, and then my dad was over here for dinner, just aggressively slamming the door and just yelling that he's leaving through the door. Bye. I doubt it was picked up. I doubt it was picked up on camera or on mic. I mean, so let's see in the run right now of hitters, who are the guys I get to the most? You know, it's funny. Like, I have a lot of Juan Soto, but I'm probably going to be underweight to the field on him just because I assume he's going to be massively popular. You know, who's popping up in a lot of my lineups right now is David Fletcher. I know you just mentioned him before, but his last 2 times that he's played, what's that?
I said, why, David Fletcher? Why? I know he hit a home run yesterday. Welcome back to the league.
He's very cheap, and he's leading off against James Kaprielian, and there's not too much else to it.
Eric is better. I'm taking his white foot. That's really inappropriate, Guitar Man. I didn't expect that from you. I thought we were friends.
What happened?
Weird thing to say. I don't know. Saying weird stuff about my lady. You don't do that. You always say that.
Somebody getting in trouble.
Oh, yeah. Time out. Think about your actions. But yeah, we're looking at the rest of the board. And for me, I already gave a specific shout out to Mr. Drury. I will say, what are you going to be doing with the Juan Soto and Josh Bell? Because they're extremely popular. Everybody wants to play them. Is this something where you just automatically look at the ownership and say, I'm going to be lower than the field on these guys? Or do you think that you can still kind of get to that kind of a number on this slate?
So, I just talked about Juan Soto.
Really? Sorry.
Yeah.
I heard what you said.
Okay.
And then I got frazzled because
it did make me laugh though.
I got frazzled because he was talking bad things and saying bad things.
It's all right.
It's okay.
Juan Soto is one of my most rostered hitters today. He's actually my most rostered individual hitter, and I still assume I'm
good
going
talk
to field on him. Like, I think I think he's going to be crazy popular, and you could get to on what's essentially a 4-game slate. You go play, probably like 40% of Juan Soto. It's a shit ton, and you probably have less than the field.
All right. So instead of rostering in man, I'm going to roster out man. That'll be good. Back half of this Dodgers lineup. I like that Lux. I like the whole back half of the Dodgers lineup. Not a very good lineup in a lot of ways, but still super, super cheap. Allows for me to just play a lot of Ohtani. Think they're coming in just under owned the middle of this lineup for sure. God, David Fletcher. You said David Fletcher. It's just wild to me. I have almost no David Fletcher right now. Maybe I get to a little bit more there too. Trent Grisham, coming in really popular after yesterday. I think he had a dong in both game 1 and game 2 of that series. Now he's going to be probably your everyday guy. Bye, Nomar Mazara. Nice to know you. Enjoy Juan Soto playing your position for the rest of your life. That'll be good. I'm getting to a couple Pirates actually on the other side here too, because we talked about it. Freddie Peralta, really good at pitching. Probably won't be pitching very, very long here. And I do think, not that you have questions with the bullpen particularly, but there's some paths where Freddie Peralta pitches four innings here. They have no Josh Hader to finish it out. People kind of maybe move into like a wonky spot there. I think Pittsburgh is a team to definitely kind of get some one-off exposure. Brian Reynolds specifically, somebody that's, I think, a pretty darn good major league hitter, sub 5% on a 4-game slate. I think I'll take that every single time at 12%.
Yeah, I'm just looking through because
he's up to 16%. Never mind. What in the hell?
I'm trying to answer your question before about players that I'm overweight to, and it's the answer really is Fletcher in terms of hitters I'm overweight to, because a lot of the guys that I do get to, like Padres bats, I'm underweight to every single hitter in the Padres lineup relative to our projections today. I still get to a lot of them relatively. If I have 25% of Manny Machado, that's a significant portion. That's going to make him my most rostered third baseman. It also means I have like a considerable amount less than what the field has. Okay.
That's a fair point. I'm just kind of looking at some of these back half of the lineup guys. I'm just overweight to all of these like back half of the lineups of Milwaukee, of the Dodgers, of the Angels. I mean, it's just, the Angels one just really takes me on a trip. Moniak, yeah, Terry said as well. First pick of the draft, that didn't go well.
I'm curious what the projections are for James Outman. All right, bad. By the way, he sucked in AAA this year also.
He did. And now he's like hitting bombs.
It's been 2 games. He has a 550 WRC plus in those 2 games. But there is a pretty big disagreement on him between Zips and Steamer. Zips has him as an 82 WRC plus guy. Steamer has him at 99. That is a massive gap.
Wow. That is wild. I'm more of an out man than an in man, so I'm going to be doing that.
Good to know for when we make our human centipede.
Stokastic cool. I don't even know. My brain just exploded. Stokastic tools and content. Yes, check it out, guys. Super quick. MLB Live. That's the promo. I want to give it to you guys right now so that you can use it. You can utilize it for today's MLB slate. You can use it for tomorrow's MLB slate. You can use it for PGA tonight. PGA Live Before Lock coming to you with Jeff Ulrich and Ben Raza coming up. In an hour? Just over an hour here, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Definitely be checking that out. But use promo code MLB Live to get yourself 50% off your first week. So if you were thinking about playing golf and you want to tune into that show tonight, this is the way to get 50% off of all the great tools and content we have. The Top Golfers tool, the top, the weather splits. I'm telling you, that has been very, very valuable to me here over the last few weeks, especially coming off of the Open Championship. I don't think there's going to be any crazy pronounced weather draw, but we'll see. I always want to double check those things in golf, and we have the tools and content to help you do that. Check it out, y'all. Stokastic Plus, Platinum Pass, 50% off using promo code MLB Live. Utilize it now. Sweet Jesus, Eric, what did I do? Eric did not just say that, did he? What? I was saying his name's Outman. More of an in man. I don't know. It's just a in and out.
You don't. It could be a number of things that people can't believe you said.
It's not the first thing that I've ever said in the history of these shows. It shouldn't be that weird at this point, y'all. I say weird things.
What would, off the top of your head, what is the one thing you said at one point where you go, you know what? I remember that. I still feel uncomfortable. I said that.
So we should talk about the rest of this slate. What are you noticing from your lineups, Greg, as we're getting closer to lock?
Nothing we haven't already talked about.
Okay, awesome.
I just want to put you on the spot.
I know. I'm trying to think.
I hate my lineups.
Yeah, they are trash.
Because the options are, because here's the options while you build your lineups.
Yep.
You're either playing really shitty contrarian offenses, which is a lot of what I'm doing, or you're just playing teams that are so crazy popular that it's nearly impossible to differentiate yourself with in GPP. So I am underweight to the teams that people want to get to, and I am overweight to the teams that suck that I don't want to play.
I just have like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 on the table. I'm scrolling through lineups and seeing kind of the way that it came out in the wash, just leaving salary on the table, even with Ohtani and Snell, even with Ohtani and Urias, with all these guys. I think that it makes a lot of sense to still kind of make it happen. Answer the question. So text. No, I don't have to answer the question.
By the way, we've gotten a bunch of super chats during the show, and I don't think we've answered.
I'm going. You don't know, JD. 2,600 FanDuel single entry, last man in. Need an outfielder that's not LA or San Diego. Thanks, boys. So you need last man in for single entry, outfielder that's not the Dodgers or San Diego.
All right, let me pull up the DK pricing. Do you
think that was the only super chat we had? No. We have another one?
We had a few earlier in the show.
I never saw another super chat. If somebody did send them and you're just like, Eric, you're the absolute worst.
I remember one word for word off the top of my head. It was, I hate MLB DFS.
Oh, I do remember seeing that. I had it pocketed, but then, I shot him 6 times. Shut up, Tyler. Shut up. You're fine. I shot him 6 times. Send us $2 super chat. That's his name. I thought you were saying I shot him. Tyler, you're the best. Hey guys, best pitcher play for FanDuel and best stack for FanDuel.
Wait, we didn't answer the other question yet.
All right, 2,600 for a FanDuel outfielder. Go.
Okay, yeah. So I'm pulling this up right
now. My
now.
lineups are in, so we can answer these and
do you have an answer for that off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, no, but I'm pulling up my projections, pulling up the Stokastic projections. I'm going to take a look and see exactly what we've got going here. I will say, Trace Thompson, probably 2,300. He said no Dodgers, though. So that's difficult. Man, options are rough down here. Speaking of, it would have been Darren Ruff, but he's not there anymore. Austin Slater, probably the chalk, but I don't probably...
No, the chalk is Trent Grisham. Trent Grisham is projected for 21% ownership, but I'll answer Austin Slater.
He said no San Diego, though.
Okay, so Austin Slater then.
Yeah, that's the answer for both of us. Austin Slater, he's the guy. He'll be one of the more popular options of the other guys you click down there, but that's okay. Best of luck to you. We have guys, I really dislike baseball from my filler arc. Is Ohtani and Snell good for today? No idea if these are, no idea if they hit these. No, they're both fantastic options.
Those are my 2 most rostered pitchers today.
All right, Scott Iserman.
The no idea if they hit these was me, Eric, in reference to the next 2 that you are about to read. Dear Lord, getting old is hard, brother.
He's just reading the teleprompter.
Hey guys, best pitcher play FanDuel and best stack FanDuel. Ohtani, best pitcher play FanDuel. And then let's see. Best stack for FanDuel. I'm going to say the Dodgers.
If you want to be If you're okay with chalk, the Brewers. If you want to be more contrarian, yeah, the Dodgers make sense.
$1.99 from Greg. Does lineup strategy change for single entry to 20 max?
It does for me. So in terms of single entry, well, also I'm more fine combing that one individual lineup I'm playing in single entry, whereas I can't do that for every single 150 max lineup. But something to consider for single entry, the ownership of the most chalky plays is going to get it's going to become even greater. Whoever's expected to be, say, the chalk pitcher is going to be 30-40% owned in large field tournaments. That pitcher is going to end up being like 60-70% owned in single entry tournaments. So it does change my approach there in terms of I just generally am trying to find ways to pivot off of the chalk and just make lineups that are really different looking. Like earlier today, my single entry stack was the Chicago White Sox. The Chicago Whites, not that they were popular in large field tournaments, but like the most popular hitter in the White Sox lineup in single entry this morning, it was Jose Abreu at 2% ownership. So there's just the way ownership looks is way different in single entry. So it does inherently change how I make my lineups.
Love the explanation. That was good stuff. We've got 4 minutes to lock, everybody. We were able to get all of the super chats in. Yeah, go F yourself, San Diego. I'm Eric Lindquist.
Yeah, he actually, see, the thing that's funny about this is he actually doesn't know. He's 40. He just had his 40th birthday. Doesn't know when his birthday is. He doesn't know what's going on. So when he says, I'm Eric Lindquist, like he's asking you guys for affirmation about who he is.
Good show, everyone.
Those are your wife's divorce papers.
Mm-hmm.
You're the host. The onus is on you to end the show. I could keep making fun of you for a while longer.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out to this lovely roast of Eric Lindquist. Tyler Zander, great work typing things that were misleading into our private chat in order to make me look stupider than I actually am. Thank you to Greg Ehrenberg for making me feel stupid every single day, hurting my feelings repeatedly, never giving me the benefit of the doubt. Any final words for the people?
Oh, yeah. You want me to go again? So later on the day, if you guys live in the Los Angeles area, you're going to be getting a silver alert. That is Eric. He is missing.
I think we just
you can end the show whenever you want. Should I keep going?
Just go ahead. No, I'm done.
Call the fight. Call the fight.
Tyler's throwing in the towel as your corner man.
Let's just go. I have nothing else to say.
Silver alerts are much funnier than I think they're meant to be.
Check out PGA Live Before Lock with two nice people at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Jeff Ulrich. Yeah, go ahead. And Ben Raza. Yeah, Tyler took it off the screen. We're gone. Goodbye. Oh, now we're back. Now we're leaving again.